All right, everybody, welcome back. We got some exciting stuff going on today. We are doing ranking the ever so epic Death discography. We've kind of been building up this. We're taking a look at each of these things, going through the history, a lot of changes, a lot of a really clear path of evolution for this band. I think this is one of those cases where I literally think that all of these albums are just five-star classics, straight up. Not only just in the subgenre of death metal, but just heavy metal in general. I think these things are just all-time greats. I have a special connection with each of these albums, too. It's only 7 of them. Of course, unfortunately, Chuck Schuldiner would pass away, really early on in his life. I think in like 2000 or somewhere early 2000s. And I think he had another project, which I've not checked out yet, another band he was kind of in. If I'm not mistaken, which I need to dig into because obviously I'm a fan of death. But yeah, he unfortunately passed away to I think a brain cancer or really bad brain tumor, something of that nature, which is just, makes you wonder, what more Chuck had to offer here. Just such a genius mind, to come up with some of this stuff. But yeah, and also at the end of this thing, we're going to announce the next band that we'll be looking at. It will be another kind of interlude thing, so this will be just a band that's only got one album we'll take a look at. And then, of course, whenever we do that one single review, I'll announce the next big discography we're going to look into, which is a pretty big one. But with all that being said, this was a tough one, guys. I'm telling you, because like I said, I love all of these so much and have a special connection to these. But number 7 has got to be the debut Scream Bloody Gore. And that might, throw some people off. I don't really know. I mean, I know this one is obviously loved, but really all these albums are, generally loved by the masses. I've seen, this is one of those cases where it's like any order of these, I could be like, I totally see where you're coming from, But for me, this one is more. And what's crazy is that, too, this is the first, not only is this Death's first album, Scream Bloody Gore, but it's also the first one I heard of them. I kind of heard these in order. So this one definitely, this is the album that got me into to death metal as a whole. So when I factor that in, I do want to, put it up, but then I'm like, well, out of as far as the enjoyment factor goes for me, this one I would say is the least of the bunch. I mean, and it's because I love how progressive, and technical the band ends up getting. Not that there aren't moments of that on here, but I definitely prefer how complex the song structures get later on. This is more of a straight to the point death metal album, which is of course an amazing thing. A definite introductory death metal album for people wanting to get into the genre. Because hell, I listened to this thing for the first time ever, years ago, and it just hooked me in immediately. And I think this is a great place to start for anybody who's wanting to get into death metal. But yeah, you've got I love Infernal Death, the opening track. Zombie Ritual is one of my favorite death songs of all time. Sacrificial is just super freaking heavy, really fast paced one. Regurgitated Guts, Baptized in Blood, Scream Bloody Gore, the title track. I mean, Torn to Pieces. I mean, this is all great stuff. Regurgitated Guts, not a bad song off here, which I'm gonna really honestly say that for all these albums, not even a bad song, which is just phenomenal. To be able to pump out 7 albums that, at least in my opinion, I consider all just pure masterpieces. But if I had to put one at the bottom, I would have to go with this one, purely based on, again, just I prefer the more complex and technical side of the band that they would kind of evolve more into. But this one is definitely, I'd probably say this is their heaviest album. And even then, maybe, because there are some other, it's their most raw album, which is, of course, you kind of figure that from it being their debut. But Scream Bloody Gore is just an all-time classic. So that takes the cake at number 7 for me. Number 6 is Human. Came out in 1991. And I love this album, man. This one used to rank a little bit higher. I had a hard time placing it. It's just, and it could go back up in the future for me. Same with Scream Bloody Gore could rank back up in the future, just as of today, and kind of after revisiting all these things again. This is kind of where I'm seeing these. This has a lot of the really technical moments on there. This is kind of before they jumped all into it, with the likes of like Individual Thought Patterns and really Symbolic, and those last two albums are really leaning heavily in towards the technicality and progressive nature of the music. But this has got some pretty crazy time changes and stuff. With Flattening of Emotions, one of my favorite death songs ever. Same with Suicide Machine, Together as One. I really dig Secret Face, Lack of Comprehension. I mean, even the instrumental on here, Cosmic Sea, is pretty freaking killer. Just phenomenal album. And this one has just got this like really dark feel to it. This one does kind of have a grit to it, even though this is like their fourth album. This would be their fourth one. This one kind of hones into a little bit more of that darkness to it. Just some of the themes and everything on here are it's some dark stuff, man, which is really all their stuff, but the albums delve into different themes, the overall, as far as the songs go. And just kind of the feel for them. This one kind of gives me a really dark and gritty feel to it, much like the first album. But it was really tough to put this one down here, because like I said, it used to rank a fair amount higher. But I had to go with number 6 being Human, but just fantastic freaking record. All right, number 5. This one ranked up for me for sure. The Sound of Perseverance, the last album, of course, 1998. This one used to actually rank at the bottom for me. Maybe a year or so ago, I would say. But it was mainly because I've never disliked the kind of vocal change in Chuck Schuldiner by any means. I've always thought it was really cool, made for a unique feel in the album, but I just have come to appreciate this album more and more. With Scavenger of Human Sorrow, Bite the Pain, Spirit Crusher, Story to Tell, The Flesh and the Power It Holds. I mean, even the cover of Painkiller's awesome. A Moment of Clarity. Just all this stuff is just fan-fucking-tastic. Death metal. Very, very technical. This has got your longest tracks on it here. Overall for the guys, pulling out these 7-minute, tracks that I love, and I think they do so freaking well. And I guess really just the complex nature and how different, how stand out of an album this one has kind of made it rise up the ranks just a little bit for me. It didn't jump, to the top. Again, there's not a lot of wiggle room here because there's only 7 albums. But, it ended up surpassing both Scream Bloody Gore and Human for me, while it used to, reside at the bottom. But I always have loved this album. It's just, I guess over the years, it's definitely just, it's grown on me more and more. And I only see it growing more for me over the years. But you never know, with this stuff kind of shifts around through time and everything. But as of now, The Sound of Perseverance cracks that top 5 just for its very, very unique sound and Chuck's voice and everything. I think it was an epic final album, which, again, it may not have been their final album had Chuck not passed away, but unfortunately, that's what happened, and this is the last bit of death here we got. And what a note to go out on, though. Love that album. All right, number 4. We're talking about the second album here, Leprosy. And this one might shock some people because this is one you typically find up at the top. And it's been pretty far up there for me before as well, like up in the number 2 area and everything. And this one does, it's like it takes the raw, just brutal nature of Scream Bloody Gore and just amps that shit up, to a whole nother level. With, Born Dead, the title track Leprosy, Forgotten Past, I love Pull the Plug. I mean, come on, man, that's one of the best freaking songs I've ever done. Open Casket, Choke on It. Those are just epic highlights in their entire discography. This one If Scream Bloody Gore made me a death metal fan, Leprosy is the one that just, you know, put the nail in the coffin, forever sealing me as a death metal fan. This is just a fantastic album from front to back. Love, love, love this thing. You know, I would say it goes below some of these other ones. Again, as I do lean more towards that technical kind of that technical aspect of the band, and this one, much like Scream Bloody Gore, it has it scattered throughout there, you know, and it's same with its complexity. But just for, and see, this does go above really what would probably be their most technical album with Sound of Perseverance. So it is kind of, although I do lean more towards that. I mean, this album, it goes above, you know, arguably their most technical Sound of Perseverance, because I think it's that strong. And I think it really captures that brutal early death metal grittiness and just visceral nature. Captures that to a T. And just the songwriting so damn strong on here, with really, really hooky, yet heavy as all get out tracks. So Leprosy cracks it at number 4 for me. Number 3, man, this one has been up there for me before as well, but number 3 is going to have to be Individual Thought Patterns. Let me get a drink here real quick. This one, you know, you get Andy LaRock from King Diamond on helping out with guitars, you know, doing some of the leads and everything on here with Chuck. So that right there is enough to make my ears perk up and be like, okay, because I love Andy LaRock, love King Diamond, and Andy LaRock is a fantastic guitar player. Love his guitar tone, and you hear it all over here, and you hear his creative, genius get thrown in here. I think he was an awesome fit for the band. And this is one of those ones that is in that kind of middle ground area for that, you know, right before you get to the crazy, ultra technical and proggy, I wouldn't call it like ultra, you know, because it's not like prog death metal albums. Even Sound of Perseverance isn't. But I would say this is kind of like the precursor to both Symbolic and Sound of Perseverance, because it does blend a lot of that. I mean, it's got a lot of that technicality with it and everything. I mean, and while keeping that brutality, and it has just such a dark and gloomy feel to it. I mean, we've got, you know, In Human Form, Jealousy, Trapped in a Corner, Nothing is Everything. Just fantastic, fucking Mentally Blind, man, love that thing. Individual Thought Patterns, The Philosopher. That right there should tell you everything you need to know. One of the best freaking death tracks out there. Overactive Imagination. I mean, just incredible stuff. This one is always ranked really high up for me. It's even cracked number 2 for me before. I've always just thought this was a fantastic one. I've heard people kind of talk about the production being bad on this one, but I really don't hear it. You know, to me, I think it's just phenomenally produced by Chuck Schuldiner here, as it says, and Scott Burns. I don't think it's their strongest production quality. I think that would definitely go to probably The Sound of Perseverance or Symbolic. But I don't really have any issues with the production here, like I've heard some people maybe say. But this is another case where just the song writing is so damn strong, and the licks and shredding of Andy LaRock and Chuck together just makes for some really, really cool moments. And it just a freaking incredible album. One of my favorite death metal albums of all time right here. Individual Thought Patterns. So you'll be able to determine what number 1 is here based off process of elimination. But number 2 is what a lot of people will call number 1. Symbolic. And you know, it's been up there to number 1 for me before. This is, my God, what an album. The technicality and progginess, it's all up in here, man. You've got the title track, Symbolic, my God, Zero Tolerance, Empty Words, 1,000 Eyes sounds like something that could be off like those early, you know, Leprosy era, Scream Bloody Gore era. Misanthrope, same thing, you know, Crystal Mountain. What a fantastic song. That one just gives me the goosebumps every time. Same with Perennial Quest. That's a pretty lengthy track here. Sacred, Serenity, Without Judgment. I mean, literally, I just named all of them. And it's, damn, not... This is one of those essential death metal records. If you're wanting to kind of introduce somebody to death metal in its early stages, yeah, maybe shoot them out, scream bloody gore. But if you're like, hey, this is some of the peak... this is one of those peak albums of the genre, at least for me. Like, it's just top notch on like the, Mount Rushmore of death metal albums. This is up there, for me, which is, and this is just number 2 we're talking about. But this album is just, the more I listen to it, it only grows, the love for it. Like I said, I have had individual thought patterns above it before, but God, this one always just creeps its way back up, and it's even creeped up at number 1 before. And this is what I see on a lot of people. Usually I see like either the first album, Leprosy, or this one as number 1 for people, which again, I totally understand. You could literally rearrange these in any order, and I'll be like, I totally understand, because they're all, again, just 5-star classics to me. But this is just, my God, man, just this album's on another level. That's really the best thing you can say about it. And I think the same for my number 1, Spiritual Healing. And this is not one I see get too much praise. Obviously, I see people, from what I've seen, people talking about the band, most people are like, oh yeah, all these albums are great, and they love them all. But most times it seems like people kind of put this one near the bottom, if not at the bottom. For me, man, this one is just got such a... I love the production on it. I think this is a great mix of the just raw brutality and the, progressive side of the band, because you got a 7-minute track on here with, the title track, Spiritual Healing. And, you get tracks like Living Monstrosity, Altering the Future, Defensive Personalities, Within the Mind. Again, the title track, Spiritual Healing, is just, man... Low Life, Genetic Reconstruction, Killing Spree. That's all the tracks off here, and all of them are just top level, top tier death for me. Top tier death metal for me. One of my favorite albums of all time. And I love this lineup from the band with Bill Andrews on drums and Terry Butler on bass. Of course, Chuck doing vocals and guitars, and then James Murphy also on guitars. I mean, this is just... wow, phenomenal album. Going in order for these albums, first time I ever heard Death, years ago. You get to those first 2, and they blow you away. This one it doesn't just blow you away, it pushes you off a damn cliff and through the wind, man, because it's just, I love it. This one is so aggressive and just, like, mean sounding, too, like, within the delivery of the vocals, so aggressive. I love the a lot of the lyrical themes and stuff on here are really dark and controversial. That makes for a really interesting listen as well. But just like I think, and the guitar tones and everything on here, and there's almost like at some points almost like this echoey kind of thing going on, effect with Chuck's vocals. It's at certain moments, and it's just such a cool album, man. One of my favorite albums of all time. And this one, it's only really moved down below like Symbolic before, but didn't stay that way too long. This is always the Death album I come back to. This is actually, I suggested this to my older brother, and because he was like, this band Death has some pretty cool album covers. He saw like I think Leprosy or something I was listening to, or one of those. They all have all those albums are pretty cool looking album covers. And I was like, yeah, well, I think you should probably check out this one. Like I said, people usually start with, Scream Bloody Gore, Leprosy, or Symbolic. I said, that's kind of what most people pick as their favorite. She's like, well, what's your favorite? I was like, well, me personally, I'm a Spiritual Healing guy. So, you could really start anywhere. But that's my personal favorite. Well, he took my word for it and started with what I said was my personal favorite, and he was like blown the fuck away. And, you know, that right there just, it feels good to be like, all right, well, someone shares my love for this album right here, because it's just fantastic from front to back. It's like a journey you're going through here, much like their others. They're also like these just brutal journeys that you're going through, and I just, man, this overall has like the most of my favorite death songs on it. With, you know, and I already listed the whole freaking album out because all those tracks are just powerful stuff with top tier production, top tier solos, riffs. I love, again, Chuck's vocals and vocal delivery on this is my favorite. Like, that's what I think of when I think of Chuck Schuldiner vocals. I think of, you know, how just insanely brutal they are on here. So there you go, guys. Ranked all the Death albums. That was a fun one. That was super fun to go back through those, and such a tough one to rank, as it always is doing the ranking thing here. But that one, I'm telling you, because it's really hard to rank stuff that literally every single a band's discography, that every single one you think is like a 5-star classic, and because that's not exactly happened yet, until now. But with that being said, what we've got coming up, this one-time album, from a band that did a one and done, that we'll be looking at. We'll actually, we'll be shifting genres again here. We'll be looking at Temple of the Dog, big super group with Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder, Mike McCready, just pretty much a lot of them grunge icons from Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, mixed up in there. So that'll be a fun album to kind of take a look at, to kind of change of pace things. And then when you watch that video, we'll announce the next big band we're going to be looking at. And we got a whopping 13 albums we're going to be looking at, and it's just hopping right back into the heavy metal stuff. And I'm super excited to delve into this particular band, which again I'll announce the next time. And then of course, stay tuned. We've got an updated Hellraiser ranking coming up that's going to feature the new movie. Obviously, I'm not going to have a copy of the DVD of that yet because it just came out on Hulu. No one's made a DVD of it, so probably when I'm showing the movies off again, I'll just have a little picture of that new Hellraiser movie up there, and we'll get to see where that goes. And I'm debating on doing another ranking every Cenobite video. Let me know if you guys would be interested in seeing an updated ranking of those with the versions of Pinhead, not only that we got in this new one, but the other Cenobites that we got. We got some pretty wild ones in that should be interesting to rank. I just don't know if it would warrant a whole, ranking all 30 or however damn many of those there are again. But I mean, if you guys are wanting to maybe see what, where I would put those, then I'm totally down to do it. Again, if you just would just let me know, and I would love to hear your guys' rankings of these Death albums. It's going to be really fascinating one to see how varied, because a lot of times when I read about or watch videos of people ranking them, the lists are so varied because they're all just so freaking good. So I'd love to talk about that and kind of see where these albums place for you guys and why. So let's talk about that down there, and give this thing a like, subscribe, and comment down there, guys. Thanks again for watching.